A warm welcome to all the viewers online on behalf of Pakhuis Zwijger, Amsterdam City Rights, and Ombudsman Metropool Region Amsterdam. My name is Fedwa Aloui, and this program is organized in relation to the Nieuw Amsterdam Akkoord, a manifest that is going to be presented by Pakhuis Zwijger in relation to the municipality elections in March 2022, to aim for a more inclusive and just city. This manifest will be created by input of participants in our program. And in this program, we aim to discuss the concrete policies for the municipality of Amsterdam to improve the conditions of undocumented people. To ask which steps should Amsterdam take towards a more human policy towards undocumented people. And today's program will consist of two parts, actually. First, we will be talking with our panel of experts and undocumented people to explain more about the current situation. And you, the audience, you can ask questions and participate via Zoom. And your questions in the chat will be sent to me here on my iPad, so I can address them to the people present here. And the Zoom link can be found on our website's program page. So also this part will be recorded. In the second part, we will talk in smaller groups via Zoom to brainstorm about and gather recommendations for policy improvements. Yeah, because they are really necessary. So please allow me to introduce the panel of today. And first I would like to introduce Hidayah Nampima, co-founder of Amsterdam City Rights and LGBTQI+ activist. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Hidayah. And next to you is Fatima Arbash, investigator and advisor of the Ombudsman Metropool Amsterdam. Welcome.
Thank you.
And on the other side, I would like to introduce Mapantsu Bamenga, fundamental values and human rights lawyer and activist.
Thank you.
Welcome. And next to me right here, Marion Grace Labasan, human rights activist, coordinator, Alliance for the Human Rights of the Undocumented, a long term, AHRU, and member FNV, Migrant Domestic Workers.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's an honor.
Very welcome. It's good to have you all here. But before we're going to start talking together, I would like to introduce our first speaker of today. And that is Mohammed Bah. And he will speak about the daily reality and urgencies. And Mohammed Bah is an active member of the Amsterdam City Rights. He wants to make the current situation for undocumented people visible. He also does this by making and hosting radio shows for City Rights Radio.
Yeah,
there you go, Mohammed.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohammed Bah. I am from Western Africa. I am a bit of a shy speaker, but when it comes to issues that affect undocumented people, I speak from my experience and share the truth. I share my truth and the truth of the people on whose behalf I stand here today. I want to express my thought on the urgency to include undocumented people in policy, and along the way, maybe, help Amsterdam live up to its claims of being a diversity with freedom and tolerance. The times are changing very fast, with less adaptive measures that follows, which is making it very, very difficult for us undocumented people. When it comes to the current situation, our cries have become a song. With healthcare, better shelter, access to education, and equal access to social amenities that the city offers as chorus. And whenever you say this, people say, but you may learn Dutch. You can learn Dutch. There are places that teach Dutch. But how can you learn Dutch? While on an hourly basis you are worried about your pending removal from a shelter or pending negative from the almighty IND? How can you learn Dutch when every sign, letter, mail, or conversation only talk about how to make you leave the country? As if this is not enough, all this is backed up by a system that is primarily designed to scare people away by restricting the most basic things needed for survival, which is healthcare, housing, and food. To my fellow undocumented people, this system of repression and restriction, contrary to our thoughts of it having flaws, is working as intended. And like every other system that is designed for us without us, it is working for the people who design it, not to help us adapt to the situation. To sum this up and mark the opening of this panel, I want to say to my dear Dutch people that we come in peace, and we came because we had to. We came because it is human to survive. We are here with a gift of diversity and curiosity, willing to learn and ready to share. We love and admire you, and we want a chance to be a part of your society. And dear policymakers, a lot of people have gone mad and committed suicide from your inhuman policies. We have been through a lot, yet we are brilliant. We are hardworking. Include us in your agenda, but in a good way this time. Meet us, talk with us, get to know us, because we are amazing people. Otherwise, be responsible for every life you destroy, every suicide your policies have caused, and every death of people you deport. Weird as this is my opening statement, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed. But please, one second.
Yes.
Those were beautiful words, and like you said, we have to get to know each other. And I want to know just one more thing about you, because you said you're working also for the City Rights Radio.
Yes, I am the host of the City Rights Radio.
Yeah.
And we make podcasts. We try to share stories of people with the aim that it will change the stereotype and create awareness about the situations of undocumented people.
Okay, and what is the basic thing that you hear during these talks?
I hear people silently, despite it being a radio, crying for help, stretching a hand, asking people, showing people in an indirect way how vulnerable they are, and in a kind of way trying to highlight the need for someone to step in and bring the change that is needed to make us look human. And the beautiful part of this is the fact that it is a talk show created by undocumented people with undocumented people, meeting people that are expert in like human rights and asking questions as to why are we in this situation and how can we change it? What are we doing wrong? What did we do to deserve this? And I hope this is just a start of it, that in the near future we will be able to live up to our intentions and objectives and create awareness.
So I still hear a lot of positivity in there, and I really like that.
I mean, what do we have? At
Exactly.
least you have to stay positive and keep hoping, because that's the only fuel that you have to keep you moving.
Yeah, and by the way, I really like this shirt. It says, if audience cannot see it, it says, "No more blah, blah, blah." So I really like that. But what are we going to do tonight?
Well, let's make some change.
Let's make some change. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mohammed. And about the shyness, I think you spoke really great. Thanks. And yeah, so that is of course the story, very strong story. And if I may ask you, Mapanzo, you yourself have been in a situation where you had to go through asylum and the naturalization procedures in the Netherlands. How did you experience this?
Yeah, I came in 1994, and it lasted like 13 years before I had a residence permit. And by when I was 11, that was the first time that we received a rejection from the government. I still remember it. Yeah. It was a moment actually that that really changed my life. Because suddenly you were undocumented, or you were not welcome, or And I said to myself, I would like to have a different kind of life, not only for myself but also for others in society who were in the same situation like I was. So because I was young, I didn't have a lot of opportunities. I focused to the things that I could influence, and basically that was my education at that moment. And working from my education when I was young and growing up till a certain point that they wanted to deport us out, and that was after 13 years living in the Netherlands. But I was studying law, and because of that I gathered some friends and also some lawyers, and I read about the immigration policy, and this is how I actually filed my own procedure. And it resulted to a residence permit at the end. So and that that gave me strength. But I said to myself, this strength, I need to use it for the good way. I need to use it for others, who cannot speak for themselves, and others who cannot act for themselves, and make sure that also they have this opportunity that I created for myself and my family.
Yeah. So actually, you took everything in your own hands, and made it work, and feeling the power of that made you continue doing this for other people.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So and I continued doing it. So I finished my law degree, and I started working at my first organization for undocumented people as a lawyer. And and I continue, and I'm doing this for more than 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, with passion.
Definitely, and there's still some work to be done. Because I remember more than 10 years ago, or even in my time, it was impossible to think about a shelter where they have people supporting people and helping people out. I remember even going to a place where, at the end I started working for and asking for a shelter, and they denied. They said, no, we cannot help you because we don't believe there's any possibility in your case. And at the end, there was a possibility in my case. I created myself. Yeah. So, I saw the whole development from no shelter at all to, people believing that shelter somehow should be unconditional. Yeah. And going from that point till the decision of the European Committee of Social Rights.
Exactly, because I wanted to ask you about it, because, okay, please explain to me what happened with these shelters. Can you tell me a little bit more about this, what happened there?
Yeah. So basically, in the Netherlands, we don't have, and it's not only typical in the Netherlands, it's typical in Europe and maybe across the world. We don't have a closed immigration system. So it means that when you come here and you ask for asylum or another kind of procedure, normally you should either get a status or either return. All right. But in the Netherlands, people stay in the between. And then when they are in that situation, they are undocumented, and they also don't have all the rights, all the social rights, like the right to shelter, the right for, access to education, proper health care, So all these rights, they don't necessarily have it. So at a certain point, there was a lawyer, of course, Pim Fischer, and also the Council of Churches, who believed that everyone should have that right. And I remember in that period that everyone was thinking these people are crazy. Of course, it's not possible.
It was new, so when things are new, people always tend to think it's crazy.
Of course, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You know, this is what everybody was saying till it was done. Right?
Exactly.
Till the decision came from the European Committee of Social Rights, who said, no, every person in need should have at least shelter and support.
So that was a good moment, a strong moment actually, to dive into that. And,
exactly.
and that was said by the European Union.
European Committee of social rights.
Yeah.
And when they said it, you know, at that point I was a member of the city council in Eindhoven, and so we used that momentum to come up with a proposal and say, okay, we need to fix this for our our citizens in Eindhoven. So in Eindhoven we fixed it, and we made sure that everyone who is in in need, that they should have at least shelter and support.
So you're mentioning the municipality where you were living. Does that mean that there's a difference in municipalities, how they deal with these issues?
Yes, there are differences, and because of this, several cities also started to do the same thing, coming with their own proposal. And one of the questions was, who should pay for it? Is it responsible for the national government, or is it responsible for the local government?
Yeah.
And is it unconditional, or should it be conditional? These questions, are still the questions till now pending, actually. But at the end, it resulted to an agreement, a collaboration between the national government and the local government, which is called the LVV. And it's a pilot to see and test if, what if we help people with shelter and with support? What would be the support, the actually result of that? Yeah. So that's where we are at this moment. Okay. And some cities like Rotterdam, Utrecht, Groningen, Amsterdam, Eindhoven, they all have these. They're all working within the LVV. But
and what does LVV mean?
Some of them are a little bit slightly different. Well, LVV is the Landelijke Vreemdelingenvoorziening.
All right.
So, translate that. The national.
Sorry.
Support.
Foreign support. Foreigner support.
Foreigner support.
Yeah, national foreigner support, something
exactly,
like that. All
exactly.
Right.
So, and this is where we are. And we are trying to, to have as much as results possible, just to show as well to people who don't believe in, such a program, that if you focus on people and you invest in people, you always win.
Exactly.
And you should never stop doing that. So that's what we are trying to do. So
you're saying focusing on people should be the main thing, and from there on you will always find some kind of solution.
Definitely.
Instead of following the rules and all that kind of things.
Exactly. And I think that should be like a starting point for everything.
Yeah. Well, last year the Ombudsman published research about the situation of undocumented people in Amsterdam. And I would like to ask you, Fatima, what were some of the important findings of this publication?
Yeah, the research has showed that there is a large group who live invisible in the Netherlands. Yeah. They are part of the society, and we found out that the undocumented existence can be very hard. Yeah. And what Mohammed already said on different subjects such as healthcare, shelter, and food, especially when the lockdown started, we saw a lot of people who were in need. We made some general recommendations, such as do more research to the life of undocumented people.
Yes.
And we self-estimated that there are 30,000 people undocumented were here in Amsterdam.
Only in Amsterdam?
Yeah, based on the conversations we had with the people. Yeah. And the specific recommendations were divided on 3 groups: children and migrant workers and also elderly people. Regarding the education, we advise to offer the undocumented youth the same rights as regular students when it comes to higher education.
Yeah,
the
because
access
that's
to
a problem,
higher
right?
education. Yes, when you're 18, you don't have to follow an education.
Exactly, and then it's much more difficult to follow any education. I understood, right?
Yeah.
And before your 18th year, you can start an education, but after that, it's much more difficult. But you worked on that.
If you are registered already in the university, you can continue your study.
Yeah.
But if you're plus 18,
yes,
it ends. So what you see is that also the feeling of youth when they're 15, they already know it ends for being 18.
Yeah.
While the people who are living here and are 18, life begins, and for them it ends.
Exactly. So what did you do? I mean, after finding that out, was there anything you could do as being the ombudsman?
Just addressing, talk about it, have a lot of conversations, but also the last meeting was here with the ombudsman and also with the wethouder.
Yeah.
And also the chairman of HVA, and there is now a concrete something specific. It's a covenant with parties such as HVA, Vrije Universiteit, Haagse Hogeschool, and Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But I've heard that also in Holland and also UvA are willing to talk about to
discuss this.
No, yeah, to the covenant itself to provide the same rights for students.
So to make it possible.
So there is a start.
Yeah. So it does work. I mean, it does work to talk about it and to address the subject and keep the people in mind instead of the rules that are there. So this is already a small achievement that they're willing to assist in that matter.
Yeah, I think there is more if you talk about the life of these students.
Yeah.
If you know you're 15 and you have 3 years and it's over.
Yeah.
What are you going to do then?
Exactly.
So also the feeling of being excluded when finding an internship is very hard as an undocumented student, because employers are not willing because they are afraid.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not allowed.
Yeah.
So it has an effect on you as a person.
Exactly.
And we've talked also about it with meldpunt discriminatie, artikel 1. And they want to know more about it, so they started to get the attention about this subject to report it. It's just a call to report it. Yeah. It's not yet online on the website of meldpunt, but I think next year, if people and professionals will report that about sharing their stories, how it is to be. To have the feeling of being excluded, or such as the access for the education, but also the administration obstacles for something like that. I think if you do more research on that, maybe it will better the situation eventually.
Exactly, because it will show more clearly what is actually happening.
It's the story behind the story.
Yeah. And meanwhile, a new ombudsman has been installed. Will the current ombudsman put similar effort into this subject?
Yes.
I hope so. Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting here.
Exactly. So no changes.
No
changes there.
No.
That's good. That's good to hear. And so Hidayah, I'm curious to hear also about this Amsterdam City Rights. Yeah. In what way are they supporting undocumented people? Is this one of the things that is being addressed? Kids around 18 being able to follow an education?
Well, thank you very much. I'll give you a brief intro about what Amsterdam City Rights is all about.
Yeah.
It's a group of both documented and undocumented people who came to have a voice, who came to be represented, because as far as I remember, as soon as I landed in Amsterdam, there wasn't really a collective of people like myself, because I think I have been undocumented ever since my asylum was rejected. So our core values are basically to see that the rights of undocumented people are respected, to see that everybody feels secure, to see that almost everybody feels safe, which is still lacking in a beautiful city like Amsterdam. We basically are part of the Here to Support team, and mostly we deal with the basics because we are not a very rich organization. We do not really have the funds, but we make sure we connect with as many groups as possible in different cities, in different nationalities, in different regions, to see that almost everybody is being uplifted, because nobody's here in Netherlands unless home is danger, unless there's fear. Nobody would want to be so many miles away from their families.
Exactly.
But because of the fear of persecution, the fear of being, some people fear the political situations, some people are actually do not have identity. By this I mean the stateless people. I know of a friend who has actually been here for over 17 years, but he cannot really prove that he comes from a particular country. So there's so many of us who belong with particular categories or groups. So as Amsterdam City Rights, we make sure we work with almost everybody.
And what do you think are important steps for the Municipality of Amsterdam to take in terms of better listening to undocumented people?
Well, I think it's very simple. For instance, for a very long period of time, we have advocated to have a seat at the municipality, because you will not express my problems.
Exactly.
Unless I am able to. So if we have a representative, that means we can always address our problems to this particular person, and they can fully represent us. It's very sad that I am 4 years in Amsterdam, but I don't even own a bank account. I think it's a fundamental right for someone to have a bank account. Like lately, you cannot pay by cash in the tram. You have to have a bank account or a money card for you to be able to buy a tram ticket on the way. So we kind of feel very excluded, because even the Dutch language that we are supposed to learn, we do not really have designated places where people can go and learn Dutch. Right,
and maybe also, like Mohammed said, if your head is busy with other things, there's no space for learning other things.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel like there's always something lacking. There's something that you feel is missing in your life. They say on paper that everybody in Netherlands is entitled to have health care. The challenge to see a GP, the challenge to go to a hospital, the challenge to have a dentist is so much of a pain. I think there should be things that are really practical. If something has been said on paper that everybody who lives in the Netherlands is entitled to have medical help, it should be practical. But in theory, what we see every day, what we go through, what I go through myself, is unexplainable.
And so only obstacles on your way. Would there be, what would be a kind of, what would be a solution for you?
Well, I think the solution is very gradual. The challenge is that we have failed to be recognized as citizens of Amsterdam. I'll talk about Amsterdam because this is where I've lived longest, right? You cannot solve the problem unless you acknowledge the problem.
Exactly.
Like some people have a stereotype that undocumented people or refugees are criminals. I think this is not right. First of all, we need to be part of the society. How do you include people as part of the society when there should be, or voting, or any kind of policy that is going to be affecting, maybe in a positive way or a negative way, for undocumented people? We should be part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should be incorporated in the policy making, especially the things that are going to affect us in a negative way or in the positive way. We should always be considered. There should be integration, because you will not know my expertise unless you integrate with me. You will not know my problem unless you talk to me. You will not know my challenges unless you give me a platform. I am very glad that at least I am able to speak on the thousands of so many people out there, because everybody has a different challenge, everybody has a different problem. But since I am able to talk about it right now, maybe the change may not come today, but it may come maybe after years or so.
And it gives you a kind of feeling of taking it in your own hands, like Mapansu before also stated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because like in our places of residence, the shelters where we live, we are given IDs, right? Identifications, but they are not recognized by the city. We need to have personal identifications that are part of the city of Amsterdam. An ID that I can present to the police officer just in case there's any kind of trouble and to feel safe. But most times when we present the kind of IDs we are given, they are not recognized.
They tell you it's not a legal
it's not a legal document.
ID. Exactly.
Yes. So even just an ID to show proper identification of myself, I don't have it.
So that would already help you a lot. So do you think that political parties take the current situation of undocumented people serious enough?
That is a 50-50.
All right.
It depends on how someone looks at undocumented people. There are some people who really categorize us in their own way.
And what do you mean by that? Yeah.
For instance, there are people who, I was actually in the same building somewhere around 2019, where someone said, I don't think Uganda has any problem. I think Uganda has only a dictator. Right? Everybody is here for a different reason, right? I am here for my homosexuality, right? So you generalizing that Uganda does not have a problem, I think it's very wrong. So the political people are not really taking this undocumented people very serious in a way that some people say they are Dutch children or the Dutch citizens or Amsterdammers have failed to get houses because of our existence. I mean, it has nothing to do, the housing problem in Amsterdam is so broad, right? It's affecting even the undocumented people. The shelters where we live, we ask for some things, yes, I'm positive, some things were given to us, but the time frame also that we were given is inadequate for some people.
What is the time frame?
The time frame is 18 months.
Okay.
In the 18 months, you're supposed to have perspective. One of the perspectives could be going for the second asylum procedure, like myself. And the other could be moving elsewhere, of which, I don't know if you've heard about the Dublin claim.
Tell me about it.
The Dublin claim is, if your country of origin, from your country of origin, you first arrived in Netherlands, that means the Netherlands is responsible for you. But if you arrived in Italy and things didn't go well, and then you come here, you still have to go back, right? And these people are actually, at the moment, they don't have any designated places where they can stay. So the number of undocumented or the people who are sleeping on the streets is actually increasing, yet Amsterdam, as a city, sleeping on the streets is illegal. So I think the politicians have not really done much to support the rights. And
so you're actually saying on one side, I mean, some things are being done,
right?
But it's not solving the problem.
Absolutely.
And the problem persists, and really big steps should be made in order to really solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, Marian, I would like to hear what are the most important barriers for undocumented people who are currently working in Amsterdam? So let's say more in, if we have a look on the working field.
in the working field. Actually, there are so many things that confronts the undocumented migrant workers nowadays. And from the previous years that we have been lobbying and fighting for the recognition of domestic work as work, which is ILO 189.
Sorry, what is that?
The convention ILO 189 to recognize domestic work as work in the Netherlands. And just to reiterate on the importance of that campaign, the recognition of the domestic workers, particularly the undocumented, is actually being curtailed by this called current Regeling Dienstverlening Aanhuis, in which domestic work is not recognized as work here. So they do not enjoy the standard labor rights and social protection enjoyed by other workers.
Exactly.
And we know that undocumented migrant domestic workers, we don't have contracts, work contracts. We don't have any hazard pay, especially if we are exposed to our employers who just contracted COVID. So if you don't work,
which is really a current situation.
Also, that is really the big problem confronting the undocumented. For the previous years, the campaign for the recognition, but with so many corona regelings, that the changing corona regelings that are happening in the Netherlands, the majority of the undocumented migrants here are confronted with the problem of the QR code. That very valuable QR code that we could not really understand because we are under a pandemic, a health and humanitarian crisis, wherein we need to have an inclusive humanitarian policy and action of utmost importance. But we are always being hanging in a thread.
Because if I'm correct, if I understood correctly, it is possible without an ID, without a BSN number, to get the vaccination. But if you got the vaccination, it's not possible to get the QR code?
Yeah, first, getting the vaccination was actually not a walk in the park. We also have to fight for that. Our organization has to fight for that. Right GGD, right RIVM, what now for the undocumented?
To make them aware.
Yes, because when Prime Minister Rutte made a press release about the vaccination rollout is going to start, of course, the elderly first, the frontliners, and depending on the birth year, there was a mention to vaccinate even the homeless and the refugees, but no undocumented people in the Netherlands. So the policies are always keeping us remain in the shadow.
Exactly.
We are always being set aside because we don't have case number. We don't have the V numbers compared to those seeking for asylum or for refugees. At least they are enlisted in the system. But the undocumented migrants, no. So we always remain faceless and nameless.
You're always, and on all fields, you are being excluded. So
we are
to say.
being excluded.
And this exclusion, what are the let's say things, the negative. I mean, I do understand that it brings a lot of negativity and you don't have a vision for your future and all of that. But there's also a dangerous side in that, right?
Of course, the curtailment of our basic human rights, and you know.
I mean, you're an easy victim, right, for people who want to do bad?
We are actually discriminated against, underpaid, disadvantaged, vulnerable to abuse and violence and harassment, particularly women. And the issue that the undocumented has been facing over the years has either been ignored or deliberately not addressed squarely. We keep on doing a lot of researches, doing a lot of debates in different platforms, medias, or wherever in the academics, but
it doesn't seem to
we could not really feel it. It is always like we are always going to the battlefield.
What would you need from the city of Amsterdam to better this to better their situation? If we stay to this working environment, what would help?
First, now, please, GGD Amsterdam, gemeente Amsterdam, release the QR code for those vaccinated, undocumented migrant workers in the city and the whole Netherlands. Because this kind of repression, this kind of curtailment of human rights would actually stop us from being, doing our work. Yeah. Those people who need to go take the children to some cafe, some restaurants or snack bars or museum, they cannot enter because they don't have any proof.
So beside the fact that you were already being excluded, this only makes it worse, and more exclusion actually comes from it.
Exactly.
And how can people in Amsterdam support the work you do at the FNV for undocumented workers? What is it exactly that you do, and how could people support you in that?
First, of course, it always starts within our community, and then we make awareness to a lot of people, and we are so glad and honored that we are also being provided with so many platforms just like here tonight. Thank you for that. So that we can air our sentiments, our situations. We just don't sit here saying our blah blahs without even giving any concrete solution. In fact, in FNV MDW, we have already presented so many models, like the Swiss models, the French models.
So you're saying internationally there are solutions, and still here in the Netherlands or in Amsterdam, those solutions are not being copied to here?
Not really. It is always like some political parties does not agree on that. We have to debate about that because in the gemeente they are not really supporting that. Blah blah blah. Oh, we have given up so much.
So a lot of like the shirt of Mohammed already said, a lot of blah blah blah.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Then how can when can we start on formalizing the informal? And a lot of people were saying like those undocumented don't pay taxes. Oh, yeah. We don't pay taxes because we are not given the chance. And paying tax is the first step towards the legalization.
So it's actually the contrary. You would love to pay the taxes in order to be in the system. What could be a solution for that? How could you solve that?
There are a lot of countries who are already doing that. In Portugal, in France, in Belgium, in Spain. How do they do that? They don't make it really hard for undocumented migrant workers to get in the system. In Spain, as I know, you can register for housing even if you're undocumented. That is an initial proof for you that you exist there.
Exactly, okay.
In Portugal, you have an employer. The employer would submit contracts and such to some department in their government. Okay, you have an undocumented worker, so that worker should pay tax, so that that person can also pay for his or healthcare provision.
Exactly.
And that is the first step also for recognizing their rights.
So I guess we're coming back to what you said. If we put the person first, then solutions always are possible. And of course, maybe not all systems in every country are the same. So maybe, but I mean, in Dutch we say, if there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. And to put it like you said it, if you put the person first, there is always some kind of solution.
Yeah. But what you see, this is a development actually.
Do you see a development?
No, but this is a development all over the world.
Okay, that's what you mean.
We have rules, right?
Yeah.
And we have policy. But the people making the rules, making the policy, are not necessarily, I think Mohammed said it well, the people who are actually experiencing the consequences of it. And so, my takeaway, I would say to every policymaker, every lawmaker, is, first of all, before you become a policymaker or lawmaker, you should work on the field. You should experience, what people are experiencing.
Yeah.
And this is one thing. And the other thing is that, you know, you should always look at the person in front of you, because this is why you're doing your job, you know, because of the people in front of you. So rules are there for, you know, for us, and not necessarily, you know, the other way around. Yeah. So these are just, you know, basic things, but very important, because you see in all kinds of domain that people forget about it, and they don't see the human being who is speaking.
It's like people want to stick to the rules as some kind of hold on, and you know that is where we should stick. And
yeah, if the rules, I always say, if the rules doesn't give you a solution which is good at human level, then you know you should.
Something should be done about
exactly.
the rules, yeah,
exactly.
and not the other way around.
So it should always give a solution on a humane level. Yeah. Definitely.
What concrete points should be included in the manifest towards the Municipality of Amsterdam, according to you? What main points, concrete points? What should be in this manifest? Well, I mean, all of you, if you want to add.
For me, first, approve the funding for a city ID card.
So a city ID card.
City ID card, so that people living in Amsterdam can have this, you know, sort of this identification card, so that they can access housing, justice, you know, whenever they become victim of crimes. Like, I have a city ID card, I am an Amsterdammer, without getting afraid of their status, like, oh my God, I'm undocumented, I might get deported or some sort. Therefore, I would just remain silent. Yeah. And yeah, the foremost call of our organization is give QR codes to those vaccinated, undocumented migrants in this city and the whole Netherlands. That is so important for us. This is our take for our social responsibility, not only to ourselves, but also to all the people around us.
Yeah. And is there anything, because you already said this ID would be really helpful for you.
Yeah, just to add on it, I think human rights are basic rights. Mm-hmm. Even if one of it is missing from your list, that means you have been deprived of your rights. Yeah. So the fundamentals of life, like I would talk about the housing. The housing of undocumented people is a huge problem. We are almost winter, because the winter for the Netherlands is almost 21st, if I remember, December, right? So the fact that people are still on the streets, exactly. The fact that we had before their houses for Dublin people, I strongly stress, because on a daily I get calls from people looking for places to sleep, not knowing that the person they're calling is also living in the shelter where I sleep. Yeah. 2 of the women will be kicked out. Imagine a mother, imagine your sister, imagine someone going to be pushed on the streets. Yeah. So I think for the fundamental, the basics, the safety of women, not only women, but for the safety of undocumented people, to have a roof on their home.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a question here. How much can Amsterdam do to support undocumented migrants when national policies make it difficult? Are there examples of cities that have created policies that are better than national policies? Because, yeah. Because that is, of course, I mean, even as Amsterdam, I can imagine that even if there are people willing in Amsterdam, if national policies don't allow certain kind of things, what can you do? And are there examples of cities that have created, do you know about examples? You gave examples about how they do it differently in different countries. Do you know if that was in a certain city of that, or was it always in the country?
I think I know something that happens in New York. It's not here, because in New York, you have a city pass. And in New York, you can use your city pass to have a bank account, you can ask for a job, you can lobby for a work permit, you can have a driver's license. Yeah. So if it's happening, because I don't think Amsterdam is bigger like New York City. I think New York City is a very big city.
Exactly.
So it needs the policy makers to see or look at ways how has New York been able to achieve this.
If New York can do it, Amsterdam must be
why not?
able to do it as well.
Why not?
Exactly.
When we talk about the policies that cannot happen because of the national
certain
level,
national,
So I think if we really vote rightly, if we really vote in favor of undocumented people, if we have a certain percentage that doesn't look at us like threats, I think some policies can work. But when it comes to the voting, people are mostly anti-undocumented or anti-refugees. But we need to come out. So we need to come out and support. They need to come and support us.
But like I heard already this evening, that's why it's so important to hear the stories and to see the person behind this, and to see the real people behind this, and know their stories. Yeah. And that's why it's so important that those stories are being told also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another question is, what is keeping the Dutch government from doing what is morally and humanely right? How can civil society have an impact on national and local policies regarding migrants, refugees, and displaced people?
I think a lot, you know, and I mean, the previous question was about national and local policy, but we have also a European policy. This is where it starts, you know. Dublin, what you were talking about, is a European system, but with local implications, so with local consequences, and we see it every day. Yeah. But probably the people who are making it, they don't live it up every day. So, if you talk about, you know, what needs to be done, the people can do a lot, because I'm sure that the politicians who are making the laws, that they are looking at, you know, what the people are basically doing. And one of the things that most of the time happens is that people who listen to the story of the people here on table, they can say, wow, you know, on the humane level, it touches me, and I would like to do something, but most of the people are quiet. You know, it's like the majority who feels that, you know, there is some change that should be done are quiet.
But then actually voting comes in, right? Like you said, so voting. So first, getting to know the stories, and then it might touch the people, and then your voting should be accordingly.
Definitely, I do believe that sharing stories. It's very important. You know, this is how you make connection with people, and this is when there is connection, there is dialogue, there is awareness, and this is how change occurs. Yeah. So this is very important, and we should make sure that, you know, the majority who are silent, they starts to speak up as well.
Well, a very important step on that was the report that was made by the Ombudsman. Yeah. Fatima, do you have any views on the near future, what the Ombudsman will work on, or how they're gonna address
this?
How they're gonna address this theme?
We're still talking with Amsterdam, and it is a local thing. It's not local; it's a national thing. It's not only Amsterdam. Yeah. So what it's already been said here, share your stories, talk about it, but report also. If people, and what we can do from Ombudsman, if you're stuck within the system and you've spoken about it with the municipality, and you have also the possibility to go to the Ombudsman, even though we cannot change immediately, it takes sometimes time.
So, but you're also saying report it. So that the Ombudsman know, and with this knowledge, probably you can do more. Probably,
but also, for example, what I've said about Article 1, if they have more reports, they can also go in depth with it and find out, is there an inequality and how much does it affect youth, for example. That's just one example. I think more attention is very important, but also the power of repeating it.
Yeah, well, repeating is what we do here at Pakhuis as well. And if you're watching this program and you're thinking like, okay, I want to know more about it, and of course we didn't touch upon all the subjects, but please check the programs on Pakhuis Zwijger, because there have been several programs on this subject, and it really opens your eyes and it really gives a good idea about what is going on, at least in Amsterdam, but I think also really in Holland. I would like to go to the closing statement, and therefore I would like to invite you, Hidayah, to take a stand. And where you will talk about dignity for undocumented and a call to action. And so I'm curious, Hidayah.
Oh, thank you very much. My closing remarks, it's about the city ID representation. We are a group of documented and undocumented people living in Amsterdam. Many of us live and work on the fringes, often excluded due to our migration status, and made it invisible because we are often unable to prove our identity. The precarity of migration status threatens security, our stability, our right to access basic services, and fundamental rights as workers, individuals, and families. The exclusion of being able to prove our identity prevents us from living and blocks us from access to basic services, safety, dignity, peace, and stability. The ability to prove one's identity is fundamental and a universal human right, and we believe in it strongly. We are citizens of Amsterdam. We live here. This is our home. We believe that Amsterdam is at its core a truly inclusive city, and there should be no room in our city for fear we are forced to live in. We deserve access to participate in life here with our neighbors, in local communities, in the place we call home. This is Amsterdam. Over 1 billion people worldwide are unable to prove their identity through any recognized means. As such, they are without protection of law and unable to access basic services, participate as citizens, or vote, have a bank account, and make digital transactions or work. Most of these 1 billion people are refugees, forcibly displaced, or stateless persons. By stateless, I mean people who cannot really prove where they come from. For some, including refugees, the stateless, and other marginalized groups, reliance on national identification system isn't possible. This may be due to exclusion, inaccessibility, risk, or because the credentials they hold are not broadly recognized. Where we support the efforts to expand access to national identity programs, we believe it is important to complement such efforts by providing an alternative to individuals lacking safe and reliable access to the state-based systems. The Amsterdam City ID will be especially useful to to undocumented people like myself. Migrants, homeless, formerly incarcerated people, and others who may not be able or prefer not to present nationally issued documents. Amsterdam City Card will facilitate access to jobs, banking, education, health, safety, and other essential services. We know there's a clear and safe route to obtain a recognized citizen in Amsterdam that will allow us to work and support each other. We witness a failing immigration policy in the national European level, and we see the city card as a local measure to encounter injustices and take place in our city. We see that people face violence, deportation, discrimination as a result of not being recognized. We reject the poverty, anguish endured by immigrants, refugees, undocumented people, and other people in Amsterdam confronted by these realities. We oppose the fear, isolation, alienation that comes from systematic exclusion. We condemn the injustice and inhumanity of a system which prevents those living without documents or permanent immigration status from living productive and fulfilled lives in the cities. We strike back with support, with solidarity, collective organizing and open arms. We affirm our right to present and to contribute beautiful things to our communities in which we share values of compassion and fairness from the safety of stability. We have the ability to shape a collective and cooperative system where undocumented people have protective municipal mechanisms for freedom of living. And lastly, we know it's time we no longer be excluded. I call upon all Amsterdammers to include refugees, undocumented people, and people who cannot really prove where they come from, to feel included, to be part of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hidayah. So I would say let's go for this Amsterdam city idea. Well, I want to thank you all for participating here in Pakhuis de Zwijger, and of course for you all for participating via Zoom. We will now continue in Zoom with an interactive brainstorm session. You can find the Zoom link on the program page if you would like to participate. Title of the program is Towards More Humane Policy for Undocumented People. So the program until now has been recorded and will be shared on YouTube and at the website of Pakhuis de Zwijger. If you like this program, you can support via Pay As You Like. And we will include the input of the following conversation in the Nieuw Amsterdam Akkoord of Pakhuis de Zwijger, which will be published in January. This topic will also be part of the Week Against Racism in March, where we hope to further mobilize towards the municipality elections. Keep an eye on the agenda. So stay present in Zoom if you would like to participate at the brainstorm session, or in case you're not in Zoom yet and you were watching us via the stream, just go to the website and click on the Zoom link for participation. Thank you for now and hope to see you in the Zoom session.